Welcome to Scary Stories. Click the subscribe and like button as the story unveils. I need to tell someone what's been happening to me. My therapist says I'm experiencing stress-induced insomnia. My doctor prescribed sleeping pills. My husband thinks I'm having a breakdown. They're all wrong. Something is waking me up every night at exactly 3:15 a.m. And it's not a dream. My name is Sarah Chern, and I've lived in the same house for 8 years. It's a modest two-story colonial in suburban Connecticut, the kind of place where neighbors wave, kids ride bikes, and the most exciting thing that happens is the annual block party. Or at least it used to be. This started 3 weeks ago, Tuesday, October 3rd, to be exact. I woke up at 3:15 a.m. I know the time because I looked at my phone immediately, that automatic response we all have when we wake up in the middle of the night. The numbers glowed in the darkness. 3:15 a.m. My husband, David, was asleep beside me. The house was silent. Nothing unusual. Except I never wake up in the middle of the night. I'm one of those people who sleep straight through 8 solid hours, no bathroom breaks, no tossing and turning. David jokes that I could sleep through an earthquake. But that night, I was wide awake, heart pounding, adrenaline flooding my system like I'd just run a marathon. Something had woken me. I was certain of it. Some sound or movement or something that my sleeping brain had registered as danger. I lay there listening. The house settled that normal creaking old houses do. The heater kicked on with its familiar whoosh. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights briefly sweeping across our bedroom ceiling. Nothing unusual. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That cold, primitive sensation that makes the hair on your arms stand up. The feeling that you're being watched. I got up and checked the house. Walked through every room, turned on lights, looked in closets. The front door was locked. Windows secure. Everything exactly as it should be. By the time I got back to bed, it was 3:47 a.m. I felt foolish. Paranoid. I blamed it on stress. Work had been intense, and David and I had been arguing about finances. I went back to sleep. The next night, Wednesday, I woke up at 3:15 a.m. Same sudden jolt awake. Same pounding heart. Same feeling of wrongness. This time, I didn't get up. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what had woken me. I listened so intently my ears rang. Nothing. Just the normal sounds of a sleeping house. After 20 minutes, I fell back asleep. Thursday, 3:15 a.m. Friday, 3:15 a.m. Saturday, 3:15 a.m. Every single night, at exactly the same time, something was pulling me out of sleep. And it was always the same, that instant alertness, like my body had received an emergency signal. By the end of the first week, I was exhausted. Dark circles under my eyes. Snapping at David. Making mistakes at work. "You need to see a doctor," David said on Sunday morning, watching me pour my 4th cup of coffee. "This isn't normal."
"I've fine.
"Just stressed."
You're not fine."
"You look like hell." "When's the last time you slept through the night?" I couldn't tell him the truth. That something was waking me at exactly 3:15 a.m. every night. He'd think I was crazy. Maybe I was crazy. I made an appointment with Dr. Williams, my primary care physician. She ran tests, found nothing physically wrong, and prescribed Ambien. "It's probably just stress-induced insomnia," she said. "The sleeping pill should help reset your sleep cycle." That night, Sunday, October 8th, I took the Ambien at 10 p.m. Felt the drowsiness wash over me. Fell into deep, chemically assisted sleep. And woke up at 3:15 a.m. Even through the haze of the sleeping pill, even drugged into unconsciousness, something had reached down into my medicated sleep and yanked me awake. I lay there, foggy and confused, staring at my phone. 3:15 a.m. And that's when I heard it.
A sound. Soft.
Barely audible. Coming from downstairs. Footsteps. Subscribe right now if you want to know what Sarah finds downstairs. because what happens next will make your blood run cold. The footsteps were slow, deliberate, moving through my house like someone who knew the layout. I sat up, my heart jackhammering despite the ambient. David was dead asleep beside me. He could sleep through anything when he took his allergy medication. The footsteps stopped. Silence. I reached for my phone, fingers shaking. Should I call 911? But what would I tell them? I heard footsteps in my house, but I'm not sure they're real because I'm on sleeping pills. I forced myself to breathe, to think rationally. Maybe it was the heater. Maybe it was the house settling. Maybe it was my exhausted, medicated brain creating sounds that weren't there. I got out of bed, grabbed the baseball bat David kept in the closet, just in case. Walked to the bedroom door. Opened it. The hallway was dark.
Silent.
I reached for the light switch. The overhead light blazed to life, harsh and revealing. Empty hallway. No one there. I crept toward the stairs, bat raised. Every horror movie I'd ever seen played in my head. The stupid protagonist going downstairs to investigate instead of calling the police. But this was my house.
My home.
I wasn't going to cower in my bedroom because of mysterious footsteps. At the top of the stairs, I paused. Listened. Nothing. I started down, one step at a time, testing each one to avoid creaks. The living room came into view.
Dark. Still.
Exactly as we'd left it before bed. I turned on every light as I went. Living room.
Kitchen.
Dining room. Home office. Bathroom. Every door locked. Every window secure. Nothing out of place. I stood in the middle of my living room at 3:37 a.m., holding a baseball bat, looking at my perfectly normal house. Either I was losing my mind, or something very subtle was happening that I couldn't quite identify. I went back to bed. Lay awake until sunrise. Didn't hear the footsteps again. The next few nights followed the same pattern. Monday, 3:15 a.m., wide awake. No footsteps, but that overwhelming sense of presence. Tuesday, 3:15 a.m., wide awake. Heard what sounded like breathing, but couldn't locate the source. Wednesday, 3:15 a.m., wide awake. Saw a shadow move across the bedroom wall, but when I looked, nothing was there. Thursday, 3:15 a.m., wide awake. The footsteps again, this time on the stairs. Definitely on the stairs. I counted them. 13 steps, the exact number between floors. By Friday, I was a wreck. I'd called in sick to work. Stopped answering my phone. Spent my days researching online. Waking up same time every night. 3 a.m. spiritual significance. Ghost activity at 3 a.m. The internet had plenty to say about 3 a.m., the witching hour, the devil's hour, the time when the veil between worlds is thinnest. Most of it was supernatural nonsense, but some of it gave me chills. Multiple sources mentioned 3 a.m. as a mockery of the Holy Trinity, the inverse of the 3 p.m. hour when Christ died. They called it the dead hour, when spirits are most active. And 3:15 a.m.? That was even more specific. Some sources called it the invitation hour, the time when entities reach out to the living, testing to see if anyone will respond. I told myself it was all superstition, confirmation bias, people looking for patterns in randomness. But every night at 3:15 a.m., something woke me up. Friday night, I decided to stay awake. If something was happening at 3:15 a.m., I was going to be conscious for it, ready for it. I made coffee at midnight, set up my laptop in the bedroom, told David I had a work deadline and would be up late. He grumbled but didn't argue. Took his allergy meds and was out by 11 p.m. I sat in bed, lights on, waiting. 2 a.m. Nothing unusual. I answered emails, scrolled through social media, drank more coffee. 2:30 a.m. The house was quiet. I could hear David's steady breathing, the hum of the refrigerator downstairs, the occasional car passing outside. 2:45 a.m. I was getting tired despite the caffeine. My eyes were heavy, but I fought it. I needed to be awake at 3:15 a.m. 3 a.m. I checked every room with my phone's camera, taking photos. I'd read online that cameras sometimes pick up things the human eye misses. All the photos showed normal, empty rooms. 3:10 a.m. My hands were shaking. Adrenaline mixing with caffeine and exhaustion and fear. 3:14 a.m. I stared at my phone, watching the seconds tick by.
3:15 Uhr nachts.
Nothing happened. I sat there, waiting, listening, watching. The house was silent. David slept. The night continued. I felt a wave of relief, mixed with confusion. Had I somehow broken the pattern by staying awake? Had it all been in my head, some weird sleep anomaly that only occurred during REM sleep? 3:16 a.m. Still nothing. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. And then I heard it. A voice.
Soft.
Feminine.
Coming from the hallway.
Sarah. My name. Something had said my name. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight app with shaking hands, and pointed it toward the bedroom door. The hallway was empty. Sarah. Again. Closer now. Right outside the door. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Every survival instinct was screaming at me to run, but my body was frozen. The door I'd left open because I was sitting up in bed, because I wanted to see the hallway, began to close. Slowly. Deliberately.
Nobody's.
No air current. Just the door swinging shut with agonizing slowness. Sarah. Whispered right in my ear. I screamed. David bolted upright, confused and disoriented.
What?
What's wrong? I was hyperventilating, pointing at the door. There was someone, they said my name. Sarah, there's no one here. He turned on the bedside lamp. The room flooded with light. The door was open. Fully open. Not closed at all. I saw it close, I insisted. I heard someone say my name. David looked at me with concern that was starting to verge on alarm. Honey, you're exhausted. You're not sleeping. You're seeing things that aren't there. I am not seeing things. But even as I said it, I wondered. The door was open. Had it ever been closing? Or had my terrified brain created that image? Come on. David pulled back the covers. Let's check the house. Together. We went through every room, checked every lock, every window, every closet. The house was secure. Empty. Normal. See, David said gently. Nothing's here. You're just exhausted and stressed. Maybe you should take some time off work. Go visit your sister in California. Get away for a bit. I nodded numbly. But I knew something was in this house. Something that woke me at 3:15 a.m. Something that knew my name. And staying awake hadn't stopped it. It had only allowed me to hear it clearly. Hit that like button right now. Because what Sarah discovers next will change everything you think you know about the thing in her house. Chapter 2. The Pattern. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in the living room, lights blazing, while David went back to bed. He was frustrated with me. I could tell. He thought I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe I was. But I couldn't ignore what I'd heard. My name. Whispered in the dark. By something that shouldn't be there. At 7 a.m., I called my sister, Maya, in Los Angeles. Sarah? It's 4 a.m. here. What's wrong? I told her everything. The waking at 3:15 a.m. The footsteps. The voice. The closing door that wasn't actually closing. Maya listened quietly. When I finished, she said, "Have you done any research on your house? Like, its history?" What do you mean? I mean, old houses have histories.
People die in them.
Sometimes people die badly in them. Maybe something happened in your house. I'd never even considered that. The house was built in 1987, not exactly ancient. We were only the third owners. The couple we bought from had lived there for 20 years, raised their kids, moved to Florida for retirement. Nothing dramatic. I don't know, I said. How would I even find that out? Property records. Local newspaper archives. Talk to old neighbors. Someone's got to know the history. After we hung up, I started digging. Property records showed the house had 3 owners. The original builders, the Hendersons, the couple we bought from, and us. Nothing unusual in the transaction histories. But when I searched local newspaper archives for our address, something came up. A small article from 1994. Local woman missing after domestic dispute. Jennifer Hartley, 32, was reported missing on Tuesday after neighbors heard a violent argument at her residence on Maple Street. Police responded to the scene but found no signs of forced entry or struggle. Hartley's husband, Thomas Hartley, claims his wife left voluntarily after an argument and has not returned. Anyone with information is urged to contact the police department. My house. That was my address. My hands were shaking as I searched for follow-up articles. I found one from 2 weeks later. Missing woman case goes cold. Police have suspended active investigation into the disappearance of Jennifer Hartley after finding no evidence of foul play. Thomas Hartley has cooperated fully with investigators and passed a polygraph test. Hartley's vehicle and personal belongings remain at the residence. The case will remain open but inactive unless new evidence emerges. And then nothing. No more articles. No resolution. Jennifer Hartley had simply vanished. I sat back, my mind racing. A woman had disappeared from my house 30 years ago, after a domestic dispute, and was never found. It could be a coincidence.
People disappear all the time.
It doesn't mean anything supernatural was happening, but something made me keep digging. I found Thomas Hartley's obituary from 2003, died of a heart attack at age 51. Never remarried. No children. No mention of Jennifer in the obituary, like she'd been erased from his history. Then I did something that felt intrusive but necessary. I searched for Jennifer Hartley's family. I found her sister, Patricia Keene, still living in the next town over. I called her. Hello. Ms. Keene? My name is Sarah Chen. This is going to sound strange, but I live in the house where your sister Jennifer used to live. On Maple Street. A long pause. Why are you calling me? I wanted to know if you could tell me what happened to Jennifer. I know she disappeared in 1994. She didn't disappear. Patricia's voice was hard. She was murdered. By that bastard husband of hers. He killed her and hid her body and got away with it because the police couldn't prove anything. My stomach dropped. You're sure? Of course I'm sure. Jennifer called me the day before she vanished. She said Thomas had gotten violent, that she was scared. She was planning to leave him. And then suddenly she's gone? Her car's still there. Her purse is still there. But she's just gone? He killed her. I know he did. Did you tell the police? Of course I did. But they said without evidence, without a body, there was nothing they could do. Thomas had an alibi, claimed he was at work all day. No witnesses to contradict him. No physical evidence. So the case went cold, and that murdering son of a bitch got to keep living in that house like nothing happened. I hesitated. Do you have any idea where he might have hidden her body? If I knew that, I would have told the police 30 years ago. But somewhere in or around that house, my sister's body is buried. I'm sure of it. Thomas would have wanted her clothes. Wanted to keep control, even after death. That's the kind of monster he was. After we hung up, I sat in my living room, staring at the walls of my house. Somewhere in this building, or buried in the yard, Jennifer Hartley might be hidden. A woman who'd been murdered by her husband. A woman who'd never gotten justice. And every night at 3:15 a.m., something was waking me up.
Sarah.
Was it Jennifer? Was she trying to tell me something? I knew how it sounded. Rational Sarah, the software engineer, the skeptic, was now believing in ghosts. But what else explained it? The exact timing. The footsteps. The voice saying my name. I had to know for sure. That night, I set up my laptop to record. I positioned it on the dresser, facing the bedroom door, set to record from 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. David thought I was being obsessive. We'd had a fight about it. Him insisting I was losing grip on reality. Me insisting something real was happening. Fine, he'd finally said. Record it. And when you see that there's nothing there, maybe you'll finally admit you need help. At 3 a.m., the recording started. I forced myself to sleep, or try to. I'd been awake for nearly 48 hours. My body was screaming for rest. I drifted off around 2:30 a.m. and woke up at 3:15 a.m. Instantly alert. Heart pounding. The room was dark. David was asleep. The laptop's recording light blinked red. I lay there, not moving, letting the camera capture whatever might happen. Footsteps. In the hallway. Slow and deliberate. They stopped outside our door. I held my breath, straining to see in the darkness. The door, still open, began to close. This time I was awake enough to be certain. It wasn't my imagination. The door was physically moving, swinging shut with agonizing slowness. And then, right before it closed completely, I saw something. A figure. Standing in the hallway. Just for a moment. A silhouette of a person. Female. Long hair. Wearing what looked like a nightgown. She stood there, backlit by the nightlight in the hallway, perfectly still. Looking at me. Then the door clicked shut, and she was gone. I wanted to scream but couldn't. Wanted to wake David but couldn't move. I just lay there, paralyzed with terror, staring at the closed door. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, I got up. Opened the door with shaking hands. The hallway was empty. I checked the recording immediately, scrubbing to 3:15 a.m. On the video, I could see myself in bed. Could see the door. Could see nothing. The door stayed open. No figure appeared. Nothing moved. But I could hear something on the audio. Faint, barely audible beneath the ambient sound. I turned the volume all the way up, put in headphones. Footsteps. Clear footsteps moving down the hallway. And then, at exactly 3:16 a.m., a whisper. Help me. Not Sarah. But help me. I played it back 5 times. It was definitely there. A woman's voice, desperate and pleading. Help me. Jennifer Hartley was in my house, and she needed help. But how do you help a ghost?
Subscribe now.
Because Sarah's about to discover that some things are worse than ghosts, and some secrets should stay buried. I showed David the recording. He listened to it 3 times, his expression moving from skeptical to confused to concerned. That's definitely a voice, he admitted. But it could be audio interference, radio signals, some kind of electronic artifact. David, that's a woman saying help me. In our house. At 3:15 a.m. Okay, but he ran his hands through his hair. What are you suggesting? That our house is haunted? That you're being woken up by a ghost? I'm suggesting that Jennifer Hartley is trying to communicate with me. And I think I know why. I told him what Patricia had said. About Jennifer planning to leave. About Thomas potentially murdering her. About a body possibly being hidden somewhere in the house. David looked ill. You think there's a dead body in our house? I think there might be. And I think we need to find it. Sarah, we can't just start tearing apart our house looking for a body that might not exist. That's insane. What if we called the police? Told them about Jennifer's disappearance? They could search. With what probable cause? A 30-year-old cold case, and your claim that you're hearing voices at night? They'll think we're crazy. He had a point. Then we search ourselves, I said. The attic, the basement, the walls, the yard. Somewhere in this house, there's evidence of what happened to Jennifer. And I'm going to find it. David looked at me like I was a stranger. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I can't believe you're not taking this seriously. Something is in our house, David. Something that wakes me up every single night at 3:15 a.m. Something that says my name and asks for help. You heard it on the recording. I heard something on the recording. That doesn't mean. What else would it mean?
Explain it to me. Give me
a rational explanation for all of this. He couldn't, and we both knew it. The next day, Saturday, I started searching. I began in the basement, the most likely place to hide a body. It was unfinished, just concrete floors and exposed beams. Storage boxes. Old furniture. David's workshop in one corner. I went through every box, moved every piece of furniture, examined the concrete floor for any signs of newer patches or repairs. Nothing. The attic was next. Hot, dusty, filled with insulation and old belongings from previous owners. I searched for hours, getting covered in dust and fiberglass, finding nothing but old Christmas decorations and moth-eaten clothes. Nothing. I examined walls, looking for patches or repairs that might indicate something hidden. I crawled through crawl spaces with a flashlight. I even used a stud finder, hoping to detect anomalies behind drywall. Nothing. By Sunday evening, I was exhausted, filthy, and no closer to answers. David watched me with growing alarm. Sarah, you need to stop this. You're obsessing. I'm searching. You're destroying our house and your mental health. Look at yourself. I looked in the mirror. He was right. I looked terrible. Dark circles like bruises under my eyes. Hair wild. Clothes dirty. I'd lost weight I didn't have to lose. I need to help her, I said quietly. Help who? A woman who might not even be buried here? Sarah, there's no evidence.
none.
You've torn apart the house and found nothing. Then I haven't looked in the right place. That night, I couldn't sleep, not that I'd been sleeping anyway. I lay awake, thinking about Jennifer, about where Thomas Hartley might have hidden her. Not the basement, too obvious. Not the attic, too difficult to access regularly. Not inside the walls, too risky, the smell would have been noticed. Where, then? At 3:15 a.m., I got my answer. I woke up, of course, to the now familiar jolt of adrenaline. Lay there in the darkness, waiting. Footsteps. But this time, they weren't in the hallway. They were above me. In the attic. Heavy footsteps. Dragging sounds. Like someone moving something heavy across the floor. I sat up, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. David was asleep, oblivious. I grabbed my phone and crept out of bed. Went to the hallway where the attic access was, a pull-down ladder from the ceiling. The footsteps continued.
Drag. Pause. Drag. Pause.
Something was moving something in my attic. I pulled down the ladder, which unfolded with its typical squeak and clatter. The sound should have woken David, but he didn't stir. It was like the house wanted me to investigate alone. I climbed up, phone flashlight illuminating the dark space. The attic was exactly as I'd left it. Boxes, insulation, old furniture. But something was different. In the far corner, behind the old dresser I'd moved earlier, there was a section of the floor where the insulation looked disturbed. I'd missed it before, because the dresser had been in the way. Now the dresser was pushed aside, about 3 feet, like someone had moved it. I crawled over, my breath coming in short gasps. The floorboards in that corner looked different.
Newer.
Less weathered than the rest of the attic. I pressed on them. They had some give, like they weren't properly nailed down. My hands shaking, I pulled up one of the boards. Underneath was dirt. Just dirt where there should have been the ceiling of the second floor. Someone had removed the flooring, dug down into the space between ceiling joists, and replaced the boards. I pulled up more boards. And there, in the beam of my phone's flashlight, I saw it.
Fabric.
Rotted and stained. Wrapped around something. I knew, even before I fully understood what I was seeing, that I'd found her. Jennifer Hartley. Hidden in the attic. Right above, where we slept every night. Don't you dare scroll past without hitting that subscribe button. Because what happens next is beyond anything you can imagine. I backed away from the hole, my phone dropping from numb fingers. She was here. All this time, Jennifer Hartley had been here. 30 years, hidden in the attic, while people lived and laughed and slept beneath her. I needed to call the police. I needed to tell David. I needed to. The ladder. I heard it folding up. The distinctive sound of the springs retracting, the ladder rising back into its closed position. I spun around. The attic access was closing.
No.
I lunged for it, but it snapped shut with a definitive click before I could reach it. I was trapped in the dark attic with a corpse at 3:15 a.m. I grabbed my phone from where I dropped it. No signal. Of course there was no signal in the attic. There never was. Too much insulation and wood between me and the nearest tower. I pounded on the access panel. David. David, wake up. Nothing. The house was silent below me. I tried to pry the access panel open, but it was designed to be open from below. From up here, there was no handle, no way to get leverage. I was trapped. And that's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Someone else's. Coming from the corner, where I'd found the body. Hello, Sarah. I spun around, my phone's light cutting through the darkness. There, standing in the corner, was a figure. Not Jennifer.
Male.
Older. Wearing work clothes from decades ago. Thomas Hartley. But that was impossible. Thomas Hartley died in 2003. I'd seen his obituary. You found her, he said, his voice echoing strangely in the enclosed space. I knew someone eventually would. That's why I stay here. To protect my secret. You're dead, I whispered. You're not real. He laughed, a sound like wind through broken glass. I'm as real as Jennifer. As real as any soul that refuses to leave the place where they sinned. I killed her, Sarah. Right here in this attic. Hit her with a hammer. She was going to leave me. Going to take everything. I couldn't let that happen. I was backing away, but there was nowhere to go. The attic was maybe 20 feet by 30 feet.
No escape.
She's been calling to people ever since, Thomas continued, moving closer. Every few years, someone moves in who's sensitive enough to hear her. They wake up. They search. And then they find her. And then, he smiled, and it was the most horrible thing I'd ever seen. Then I have to protect my secret again. The Hendersons, I breathed. The couple we bought from. They lived here for 20 years. Did they? The wife heard Jennifer. For months, she heard her. Started searching. Got close. Too close. So, I made her have an accident. Fall down the stairs. Broke her neck. Made it look like she tripped. He tilted his head. That's when they decided to sell. The husband thought the house was unlucky. My blood turned to ice. You killed her. I protected my secret, just like I'm going to protect it now. He moved toward me, impossibly fast for a dead man. I screamed and swung my phone at him. It passed through his form like he was made of smoke, but the flashlight beam seemed to cause him pain. He recoiled, hissing.
Light.
He was vulnerable to light. I scrambled backwards, keeping my phone pointed at him. The beam wasn't strong enough to make him disappear, but it kept him from getting closer. David, I screamed again. David, help me. Below, I heard movement. Finally, David was waking up. WH Sarah? Where are you? The attic. I'm trapped in the attic. Thomas lunged at me again. This time I didn't swing the phone, I took a photo. The flash exploded in the dark space, bright and blinding. Thomas screamed, an inhuman sound of rage and pain, and dissolved into shadows. I kept taking photos, the flash firing again and again, filling the attic with strobing light. The access panel dropped open. David's worried face appeared. Sarah, what the hell? Call 911. There's a body in the attic. And I hesitated. How could I explain the rest? Just call them. Now. David's eyes went wide as he saw the disturbed floor, the exposed dirt, the rotted fabric. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Thomas's voice echoed from the shadows. You think this is over? You think calling the police changes anything? I'm bound to this house, Sarah. Bound to my sin. And you live here now. Every night at 3:15 a.m., I'll be here. Watching. Waiting. Until you make a mistake. I kept my phone light pointed at the corner where his voice originated. Jennifer? I called out. Jennifer, if you're here, help me. Silence. Then, a cold wind blew through the attic, despite there being no windows, no vents. It swirled around me, gentle and protective. And Jennifer's voice, clear as day. You found me. Thank you. Now I can make sure he never hurts anyone again. The wind became violent, focused, rushing toward the corner where Thomas lurked. He screamed again, but this time it was different. Terrified. Pleading.
No.
Jennifer, please. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
30 years too late for sorry. The shadows where Thomas had been standing imploded, sucking inward like a black hole. For just a moment, I saw him clearly, an old man, terrified, reaching out as he was pulled into nothing. Then he was gone. The attic fell silent. Sarah? David's voice was shaky. The police are on their way.
Come down.
Please. I climbed down the ladder on trembling legs. Behind me, I heard one last whisper. Thank you. I can rest now. The police arrived at 4:03 a.m. They found Jennifer Hartley's remains exactly where I'd indicated. The medical examiner confirmed blunt force trauma to the skull. Murder. Patricia Keene was notified. After 30 years, she finally had answers. And closure. The house became a crime scene. David and I stayed at a hotel for a week while forensics processed everything. The media had a field day. Decades-old murder solved by new homeowner. My story made national news, though I left out the supernatural elements. Let them think I'd just gotten lucky finding the body. We sold the house 2 months later. Took a loss. Nobody wants to buy a house where a murder victim was hidden for 30 years. But I didn't care. I never wanted to set foot in that place again. We live in a new construction condo now. 5th floor. Brand new building. No history. No past. And I sleep through the night. But sometimes, not often, maybe once every few months, I wake up naturally around 3:15 a.m. And I lie there, listening, just to make sure. Because I learned something from Jennifer Hartley. Not all ghosts are evil. Some are just victims, seeking justice. Seeking peace. Seeking someone brave enough to listen. But I also learned that evil can linger. That sins can trap souls. That some houses hold memories that should never be disturbed. And that the thing that wakes you at 3:15 a.m. might be trying to save your life. I've been getting emails. Not many. Maybe one every few weeks. But they all say essentially the same thing. I wake up at 3:15 a.m. every night. I hear sounds. I feel like something's watching me. I think something's in my house. What do? After my story went public, I became an accidental expert on nocturnal hauntings. People reach out because they think I'll understand, that I won't call them crazy. They're right. I answer every email. I tell them what I learned. First, document everything. Record audio, video if possible. You're not crazy if you have proof. Second, research your home's history. Property records, newspaper archives. Talk to neighbors. The past doesn't stay buried forever. Third, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. That primal fear exists for a reason. And fourth, this is the most important one. If something is trying to communicate with you, listen. Not all supernatural entities are threats. Some are victims. Some need help that only the living can provide. But here's what I don't tell them, what I can't quite bring myself to write. Sometimes you'll wish you'd never listened. Sometimes the truth is worse than the not knowing. Last week, I got an email that made my blood run cold. Dear Sarah, my name is Marcus Webb. I bought your house on Maple Street 6 months ago. Got a great deal on it. The realtor said the previous owners were motivated sellers. I knew about the murder, of course. That Jennifer Hartley woman who was found in the attic. But I'm not superstitious. A house is just wood and nails. Except for the past 2 weeks, I've been waking up at 3:15 a.m. And last night, I heard footsteps in the attic. I need to know what to do. I stared at the email for a long time. Jennifer was at rest. I'd seen her disappear after Thomas was pulled into whatever hell awaited him. She'd said, "Thank you," and "I can rest now." So what was waking Marcus Webb at 3:15 a.m.? I shouldn't have responded. I should have deleted the email and moved on with my life. But I couldn't, because I knew exactly what he was experiencing. That terror, that confusion, that desperate need for answers. I wrote back, "Marcus, get out of that house.
Now.
Don't pack, don't wait, just leave. Jennifer Hartley is at rest. If something is still waking you at 3:15 a.m., it's not her. Which means there's something else in that house. Something we didn't know about. Something that was there before Jennifer. Or something that arrived after. Do not go into the attic. Do not investigate. Just leave.
Trust me on this."
Sarah. I hit send and immediately felt sick to my stomach. Because I'd realized something. Something I should have seen a year ago but had been too traumatized to process. Thomas Hartley had said, "Every few years, someone moves in who's sensitive enough to hear her." Every few years. The house was built in 1987. Jennifer died in 1994. That's 7 years. The Hendersons lived there for 20 years after that, until 2014. Mrs. Henderson's accident would have been around 2014. That's 20 years between incidents. Then we moved in 2016. 2 years later, Jennifer started waking me. The pattern didn't match. Thomas had said every few years, but the timeline showed decades-long gaps. Unless there were more victims. Unless Jennifer wasn't the only one hidden in that house. Unless Mrs. Henderson wasn't the first person Thomas's ghost had killed to protect his secret. My hands were shaking as I opened my laptop and started searching newspaper archives. I found it within 10 minutes. Couple dies in house fire. November 1999. A fire at 47 Maple Street claimed the lives of residents Andrew and Michelle Patterson early Sunday morning. Fire investigators determined the blaze started in the attic due to faulty wiring. The Pattersons had lived in the home for approximately 2 years. 2 years. They'd lived there for 2 years, long enough for Michelle Patterson to potentially start hearing Jennifer. Long enough to start investigating. And then a convenient fire, blamed on faulty wiring, that killed them both. I searched more frantically now. Woman found dead in home. March 2006. Police are investigating the death of Christina Moreno, 34, who was found deceased in her home at 47 Maple Street. Preliminary reports suggest she fell down the basement stairs and struck her head. Moreno had recently purchased the home and lived alone. Basement stairs. Just like Thomas had claimed, he made Mrs. Henderson fall downstairs. 3 incidents, no, for including the Hendersons. 4 sets of people who'd lived in that house between Jennifer's death and our purchase. 4 sets of deaths or near-deaths. And we'd only found Jennifer's body, which meant my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Heavy breathing. Then, you shouldn't have told him to look. Marcus's voice. But wrong. Distorted. Like something was speaking through him. Marcus? Are you okay? You opened the door, Sarah. When you found Jennifer. When you freed her. You opened the door. His breathing was labored, painful. And now something else can come through. What are you talking about? What came through? Old things. Hungry things. Things that have been waiting so long for someone to break the seal. Jennifer's body was a seal. Thomas's spirit was a seal. You removed both. And now. The line went dead. I tried calling back. No answer. I called David at work. We need to drive to Connecticut. Right now.
Sarah, no. We talked about this.
That house is not our problem anymore. Someone's in danger. Marcus Webb bought the house and something's happening to him. Then call the police. Don't go back there yourself. He was right. I knew he was right. But I also knew the police wouldn't understand. Wouldn't believe him. Would write him off as crazy, just like they'd almost written me off. I grabbed my keys and drove. I reached 47 Maple Street at 2:47 p.m. Still daylight. The house looked normal. Peaceful, even. Fresh paint, new shutters. Marcus had clearly been fixing it up. Marcus's car was in the driveway. I knocked on the front door. No answer. Marcus? It's Sarah Chun. We emailed. I just want to make sure you're okay. Silence. The door was unlocked. I pushed it open. Marcus. The interior was completely remodeled. New flooring, new paint, new fixtures. It looked nothing like the house I'd lived in. Marcus had poured money into making it beautiful. But underneath the fresh paint and new carpet, I could feel it. That same wrongness I'd felt a year ago. That sense of being watched. I checked the first floor. Kitchen, living room, dining room, bathroom. All empty. The basement door was open. Lights on. I could hear something down there. A rhythmic scratching sound. Marcus. I called down. Are you down there? The scratching stopped. Then, don't come down, Sarah.
Please.
Just leave. What's happening? I opened the attic.
After you told me not to.
I wanted to see where they found her. And there was another section. Behind where her body was. More loose floorboards. More space underneath. My stomach dropped. What did you find? 3 more bodies, Sarah. 3 more bodies. Hidden in different sections of the attic. Dating back decades. And when I found them, his voice broke. Something woke up. I'm calling the police.
No.
Don't you understand? The police will remove the bodies. They'll investigate. They'll disturb everything. And it will get worse. Whatever's in this house, it's been feeding on death for decades. Growing stronger. Waiting. Then what do? I don't know. I thought maybe if I came down here, if I got away from the attic, it would stop. But it followed me. I can hear it in the walls. Scratching. Moving. Getting closer. I'm coming down. Sarah, no. I was already descending the stairs. The basement was exactly as I remembered it. Concrete floor, exposed beams, Marcus's new workshop set up in the corner. Marcus sat in the center of the room, surrounded by a circle made of salt. He looked terrible, gaunt, pale, eyes wild with fear. Salt. I asked. Read it online. Supposed to protect against spirits. Hasn't done much good. As if in response, the scratching started again. Coming from inside the walls. All around us. Dozens of sources, like something was crawling through the spaces between studs. What is that? I whispered. I don't know, but it's been getting stronger. Closer. Every hour since I found the other bodies. I think. He laughed, a broken sound. I think we fed it. Jennifer's body kept it contained somehow. Like you said, a seal. And when we removed her, when we exposed her to air and light and justice, we broke the binding. And all the other bodies, they're feeding it. 3 more murdered souls, 3 more violent deaths, all that pain and terror and rage. It's been absorbing it, growing fat on it. The scratching grew louder.
Faster.
Frenzied. We need to leave, I said. Both of us. Now. I tried. I can't get past the stairs. Every time I try to leave the circle, something pushes me back. That's impossible. Try it. I stepped toward the stairs. Got 3 feet from Marcus's circle. And felt it. A pressure. Like walking into a strong wind. The harder I pushed, the stronger it pushed back. See. Marcus's voice was hollow. We're trapped. And it's almost 3 p.m. Do you know what happens at 3:15 p.m., Sarah? That's not the witching hour. That's the inverse. The mockery. If 3:15 a.m. is when evil is strongest, what do you think happens at 3:15 p.m.? When the sun is still up, when you're supposed to be safe? I check my phone. 3:08 p.m. We have 7 minutes, I said. Tell me everything you know. Every detail. Maybe we can figure out. The lights went out. Complete darkness. My phone flashlight was the only illumination. It's early, Marcus whispered. It's starting early. From above us, from the first floor, came the sound of footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, multiple sets moving in unison. Not the soft footsteps I'd heard from Jennifer. These were different, heavier, angry. The other victims, I breathed. They're here. The footsteps moved to the basement door. Stopped. The door slowly opened, and down the stairs came figures. 4 of them, 3 women and 1 man, each bearing the marks of their deaths, charred skin, broken necks, crushed skulls. They moved in perfect synchronization, like puppets on strings. But they weren't the puppeteers. Something else was controlling them. Behind them, filling the stairwell, came darkness. Not just absence of light, but active darkness. It flowed down the stairs like liquid shadow, and where it touched, the walls cracked and rotted. It's the house, Marcus said. Or something that's become the house. Decades of violence and murder and concealed deaths. It's sentient now, and it's hungry. The possessed corpses surrounded us. The darkness pooled at the edges of Marcus's salt circle, testing it. My phone showed 3:14 p.m. 1 minute. Sarah, Marcus said quietly. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. Sorry I opened the attic. It's not your fault. I should have warned you better. Should have understood what we were dealing with. 3:15 p.m. The corpses opened their mouths in unison. And from those dead throats came a voice, ancient, multi-layered, hungry. You freed them. Now free us. The salt circle evaporated like it had never existed. The darkness surged forward. I grabbed Marcus's hand.
Didn't know why.
Just felt like if we were going to die, we shouldn't die alone. The darkness touched my ankle. It was cold. So cold it burned. I screamed. And that's when she appeared. Jennifer Hartley, standing between us and the darkness. Glowing with soft light. Looking exactly as she had in the photos I'd found. Young, beautiful, alive.
No.
Her voice rang with authority. You don't get them. The seal is broken, yes. But I'm not leaving. Not while you're still here. The darkness recoiled. The corpses stumbled backward. You have no power, the voice hissed. You are freed. Released. You cannot stay. Watch me. Jennifer's light grew brighter. I stayed hidden for 30 years. I can stay visible for eternity if I have to.
These people tried to help me.
Gave me justice. Gave me peace. And I will not let you take them. The light from Jennifer expanded, pushing back the darkness, forcing it up the stairs. The corpses collapsed, released from whatever had been animating them. The darkness screamed, a sound that made my ears ring and my teeth ache. Get out, Jennifer commanded. This is my house.
My grave.
My prison. And I say you leave. The darkness imploded, sucking back into whatever hell it had crawled from. The basement walls stopped rotting. The lights flickered back on. The corpses lay still on the floor, finally at rest. Jennifer turned to us. You need to burn this house down. All of it. It's corrupted beyond saving. The deaths here have poisoned the foundation. As long as the structure stands, that thing can come back. But you, I started. I'll be fine. I'm not bound to the house anymore. You freed me, remember? But these others, she gestured to the bodies. They're still bound, still suffering. Burning the house will release them. Let them rest like I can rest. Marcus was staring at her, tears streaming down his face.
I'm so sorry. For what happened to you.
For everything. I know. It wasn't your fault. Neither of you. You just had the bad luck to buy a house that had become a feeding ground. She smiled sadly. Now get out. Both of you. Call the police, tell them about the bodies. Then burn it down.
Tonight.
Before 3:15 a.m. comes again. She faded like morning mist.
We ran.
The police found 4 bodies in the attic. Jennifer Hartley, Michelle Patterson, Christina Moreno, and a 4th victim we'd never known about, Lisa Chin, who disappeared in 2001. All murdered. All hidden. The investigation dominated headlines for weeks. The house on Maple Street was declared a crime scene, then later condemned. Marcus and I gave statements. Told them about finding the bodies. Didn't mention the supernatural elements. They wouldn't have believed us anyway. 2 months later, the house was scheduled for demolition. The night before, at 2:30 a.m., I drove to Connecticut. Marcus met me there. Ready? He asked. Ready. We'd brought gasoline. Lots of it. We'd scouted the property, made sure the neighbors were far enough away to be safe. At exactly 3 a.m., we doused the structure. Every room, every wall, every corner. At 3:14 a.m., we lit it. The house went up like it was eager to burn. Flames climbed the walls, consumed the roof, devoured every plank and beam. We stood across the street, watching it burn. At exactly 3:15 a.m., I saw them. 4 figures in the flames. The victims, standing together, watching us. Jennifer waved. Then they were gone. Released. Finally at peace. The fire department arrived eventually. Asked questions we'd prepared answers for. Investigators would later determine it was arson, but they never found enough evidence to prosecute anyone. The lot sits empty now. Marcus sold it for almost nothing. Nobody wants to build where that house stood. But sometimes I drive by, usually around dawn, and the lot is always peaceful, quiet, normal. Whatever evil had taken root there is gone, burned away, released. I still wake up sometimes at 3:15 a.m., but not because something's calling me. Just habit now. Body memory. When I do, I lie there in the darkness of our safe, new, history-free home. And I listen, just to make sure. Because I learned something from 47 Maple Street. Evil isn't always obvious. Sometimes it builds slowly, death by death, feeding on violence and secrets. Sometimes it grows so gradually that you don't even notice until it's strong enough to trap you. But I also learned that good can linger too. That victims can become protectors. That sometimes the thing that wakes you at 3:15 a.m. isn't trying to hurt you. Sometimes it's trying to save you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is listen to the voices in the dark, because they might be trying to prevent you from becoming one of them. If you've read this far, I need you to do something for me.
Subscribe.
Share this story. Not because I want attention, but because I need people to know. If you wake up at 3:15 a.m., if you hear sounds you can't explain, if your house feels wrong, don't ignore it. Research your home's history.
Trust your instincts.
And if you find something, don't try to face it alone. Because some secrets are buried for a reason. And some houses should never have been built at all. But most importantly, if something in the dark says your name, if something asks for help, if something tries to communicate, listen first, run second. Not all monsters wear terrifying faces. Some wear the faces of victims, desperately trying to warn you before you become victims too.
I'm Sarah Chen.
And that's the story of the thing that woke me at 3:15 a.m. I hope you never have a similar story to tell. But if you do, remember, you're not crazy. You're not alone. And somewhere someone will believe you. Now turn on your lights. Check your locks. And maybe, just maybe, do a little research on your home's history. Because ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance is just another way of becoming a victim. Sleep well. Or try to, anyway. This story is fiction, but the fear it represents is real. If you're experiencing unexplained phenomena in your home, first rule out rational explanations. Carbon monoxide leaks can cause hallucinations, infrasound can create feelings of dread, and sleep paralysis can seem terrifyingly real. But if you've ruled out all rational causes and something still feels wrong, trust your instincts. Research your property's history. Talk to neighbors. And know that you're not crazy for feeling afraid. Sometimes the thing that wakes you in the night is trying to protect you. Pay attention. It might save your life. Now subscribe, turn on a light, and maybe sleep with one eye open tonight. Just in case. Sweet dreams. Or at least safe ones. Crescent Moon.